Hello, thank you for your interest in learning how to make a granny square in order to create an afghan, a scarf, or even a jacket as part of our homeless outreach. Alright, so the supplies that you're going to need today are a crochet hook. I'm using a size G or a 4.5 millimeter, but you could use a larger hook or a smaller hook. The main idea is just to use a hook that is the same size throughout all your granny squares. You're going to need a yarn needle, a pair of scissors, and I recommend using a acrylic worsted weight yarn. Acrylic is what most yarn is made out of today. Your Red Heart Super Saver, your Lots of Love, your Lions brand, your Karen, most of them are acrylic yarns. Now, a lot of people prefer natural yarns, but when you're dealing with things that are going to go to people that you don't know, it's always best to use acrylic because of allergies. For example, so many people are allergic to wool. While wool is warmer, that may not be something that's great to give out to somebody you don't know if they're going to have an allergy or not. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to stick with acrylic. Now, I'm using Brava from Knit Picks We Crochet worsted weight yarn, and this is a little bitty skein because this is from a sample pack, and as you can see, it has the washing instructions and everything on the back. Now, I did purchase all the materials here myself, and we're not being sponsored by any company or brand. Now, I'm using 3 different colors for my 3 rows of the granny square. Now, you can make a granny square all one color, 2 colors, however you'd like. You can make it this, which is the size we're going to be making today, which is 3 rows or 3 rounds. Or you can just make it bigger and bigger and bigger and have your entire blanket be one granny square. Now today I'm going to show you how to make a small 3 round granny square and how to join 2 granny squares together. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. With the first granny square I made, I started with the Marina color in the center. I'm going to start with the orange in the center now just to add a little bit of variety. This is mainly for aesthetics. It doesn't matter very much what order the colors go in. I generally like it when the granny squares have a little bit of a pattern to them. So if I were going to continue making this blanket out of these colors, I would go back and forth between the Marina color and the orange in the middle. Alright, so we start with our slip knot, pull it tight, and then we're going to crochet 3 chain. We're going to do 3 chain stitches, 1, 2, 3. And that's where we're going to start on our first round of our granny square. We're actually going to do a double crochet, so we're going to wrap it around the hook, go into the first chain stitch that we did, grab more yarn, and do that. Now, these chain stitches are going to count as a double crochet. So we have our 2 chain stitches here, 1 double crochet. We're going to go into that same chain stitch and crochet 1 more double crochet. Now that's our first section of our granny square. Now we're going to go ahead and chain 3, 1, 2, 3 to create a chain space, and then we're going to double crochet back into that first chain stitch again. So we're going to do 3 double crochets this time. I'm going to pull more yarn out of my skein. 1 more. Okay, so we have our second little section of our granny square with a chain space in between. Now this is going to be a corner chain space. So 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to do another cluster of 3 double crochets. Into that first chain stitch. third corner, 1, 2, 3, and then our last cluster for our first round on a granny square. All right, so now we're going to do our last 3. We're going to finish with our last corner and do another 3, and we're going to change colors. If you are changing colors, this is how you do it. So I'm doing the chain space, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the gray in between, and I pulled out a whole bunch of gray earlier, so that's why you see me pulling here. And I'm actually going to go into that top stitch right there, and grab the yarn, the gray yarn that I'm changing it to, and I'm going to pull it through both. So I have joined this chain stitch to that top of that second of those 2 original chain stitches that are sub in for our first double crochet, and then I've joined that. Now I'm going to cut the orange nice and long in case a mistake was made. It's always good to leave a nice long tail. Move the orange yarn out of the way because now I'm working with the heather or gray. Now I'm going to turn my granny square. As you can see the 4 corners there, and then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and that again will be our first double crochet of this round. So then we're going to do, so that's 2 and 3. Now you can kind of see that this chain space is coming loose a little bit because I haven't woven in this, so you might have to pull this a little bit. All right, so we've got that the first cluster of our double crochets in the corner chain space, and we're going to create another chain space. So 1, 2, 3. So that'll be our first corner, and then we're going to go into that same chain space and do another cluster of 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, so now we're going to do another chain space to go over these 3. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to work another cluster of 3 double crochets, 3 chains, and 3 double crochets, all in this corner chain space here. So we're going to do 3 double crochets for that cluster. Chain 3, and then we're going to do another 3 double crochets in that corner chain space. All right, so we've got our second corner done. We're going to chain 3 more, and then we're going to do our chain cluster into the next corner here. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments, and I will be more than happy to try and answer your questions in regards to the granny square. There are many variations. This is a very, very basic granny square. You'll see some that actually have circles in the middle and have flowers, but for this video we're sticking with just the very basic granny square and how to join granny squares together. And there are also different methods on how to join as well. Alright, but we'll get to that in a minute. So we've just finished our 3 double crochets, 3 chain, 3 double crochets. We're going to do 3 more chains and then double crochet the 2 clusters with the chain space in between for the next corner. Okay. All right, and then we're going to do 3 more chains, and then we're going to change colors again. So I'm just finishing up the double crochet. See, I got a knot in my yarn. Let me fix that real quick. Should be on a t-shirt, knots happen. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and do our 3 chains. 1, 2, 3, and we're going to go into that first chain. And oh, well, first we're going to change colors. That's right, I almost forgot. We're going to do this beautiful teal blue color that they call Marina, and so we're going to just go into there, grab the teal, pull it through, and we've changed colors. Let's cut the heather. These are my spare scissors from home. They are needing sharpening very badly. All right, so then we're going to turn our granny square, and we're going to chain the 3. So 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do the 2 additional double crochets into that first chain space. And then we're going to go in do 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and then do our chain cluster in the corner. Now, if you increase you just continue the pattern if you want to make one giant granny square. I have made one before, and what I did was I made it all one color until I got to about here, and then I made it all a different color, and then I changed it to a 3rd and a 4th color. So there are a lot of different things you can do with granny squares. But even just this simple granny square, you can make a jacket, a scarf, a blanket. So they're all very, very good. Now, another thing I've seen is because this has a lot of holes in it, one of the things that you can do with this type of granny square blanket is you can actually line it with fleece on one side, just sew a layer of fleece on, and that will make it that much warmer. To help people get through the winter. So we're going, since I finished the corner, I did another 3 chain, and I'm going to go ahead and crochet into this next crochet space, this next chain space. I'm going to chain 3 more, and I'm going into the next corner, and we're going to repeat that cluster chain cluster. And I'm trying to use the vocabulary you will see on crochet websites. So if you're a beginner, this is entirely possible for you to do the granny squares, because I'm not doing anything advanced. It's just chain spaces, double crochet, and that's pretty much it. But I want to use the vocabulary that you will see on different crochet blogs and patterns, because having to learn that is sometimes a bit of a curve. All right. Okay, so we finished our 3rd corner, and we're going to go and chain into this next chain space. I wasn't able to pull from the middle on this yarn, and so it's coming from around and it doesn't do as well. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and crochet into this next chain space. just 3, and then we're going to create another our last corner. Oh, maybe not quite our last corner. We're on our last 2 corners. All right, so unlike when you do a circular round, the granny square round, it's pretty obvious where you started and stopped. So it's not as important to count your stitches on a granny square, because it's such an obvious pattern. Alright, so I finished my corner, chain 3, I'm going to crochet my 3 double crochets into the chain space. Alright, and now I'm going to do 3 more chains to get to the last corner. And as this is the end of my granny square, I'm actually just going to go ahead and join it. I'm not changing colors again. Again, if you have any questions or need something demonstrated, please just let me know in the comments. I have a lot of videos to teach the beginning crochet stitches on our www.facebook.Spring Branch Memorial Library. Facebook.com/Spring Branch Memorial Library. And if you need to learn how to do the stitches, you are more than welcome to check out those videos. They just say beginning crochet, and they'll take you through how to do a single, half double, double, and a triple crochet stitch. And with those stitches, you will have no problem doing a granny square. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and join those. My hook got caught where it wasn't supposed to go. Okay, and I leave little flubs like that so you can see I am not an expert. I do that on purpose. All right, so I've joined, and now I'm going to finish off by cutting this yarn, if my scissors will help work with me, and then we're going to weave in the ends and trim everything. Okay, all right, so notice I have a lot of ends on here, so we're going to go ahead and weave those in. I'll start with the last one we did. Just thread the yarn needle. It's always a little bit more difficult to do this with double crochets than it is with, you just weave it in, which is not, just weave it in. Just weave it in. It's, people say, just weave it in, to weave in the ends. Like that's the easiest thing in the world, where sometimes it can actually be a little bit tricky because you're trying to hide your yarn ends. And sometimes they just don't want to go where you want them to go. All right, so I'm gonna make sure that on the, here where I initially changed yarn, I'm pulling it tight a little bit to make sure that it doesn't get loose on those stitches. So I'm just gonna go over and through. It's a little bit easier down here to weave in than it wasn't there. Just pull it and then trim it. This one, I've got 2 more grays and 2 more oranges. I'm gonna do the other gray. Do the oranges, and then we will be done weaving everything in, and we can start on the joining process. And this is something else I show on purpose because I want you to see there's a reason why most crocheters really don't like weaving in ends. It can get a little tedious. At least when you're doing the granny squares, you do it as each square gets finished. Do not wait until you have 100 granny squares to weave in all these ends. You can see it's 6 ends here. If you wait till the end, it's 600. It's just better to go ahead and get it done as you finish each granny square. The last one. Now, this is also can be used with just random colors. I've seen some very gorgeous blankets and different things made with like just scrap yarn. They're called scrap gans. And what you do is you use just whatever yarn you have left lying around the house, and you just use it all. And a lot of times they turn out really cool looking, just because it's all different color yarns. It's just very colorful, very joyful. All right, and I have a weird thing in my yarn there, so I'm gonna just cut it off. All right, so now we're ready to go ahead and join our crochet squares. So we're going to be working in the front loop of our granny square and the back loop of the second granny square. All right, so we're going to be joining together with the neutral color that I used earlier, but really you can use whatever color you want. Just use the same color throughout. So we're going to be using a slip stitch method. So we're going to go ahead and use the yarn and pull through, and then we're going to go through into the next crochet stitch by going into the front loop and the back loop, grabbing the yarn and pulling through all 3 loops. And now we've started our slip stitch join. So we're going to go into the front loop and the back loop of the next stitch. Grab it and pull it through all the loops. Front loop and the back loop. And pull through. And we're going to do that all the way down into each stitch. Now when you are joining, it's best to actually do an entire strip of granny squares. So front loop and back loop, and then join the strips together using the same joining method for each strip, each granny square, because there are different methods. The single crochet, I thought about doing it, but it leaves a ridge, and I prefer a flat look to my joining, so we're going to use this one instead. It's also possible to use a mattress stitch or a whip stitch to join, and those are actually sewing stitches, so you can use those as well. In other words, there's a lot of different ways to join your granny squares. I'm showing you the slip stitch version, but you may prefer a different version for your blanket. So go ahead and look around online and see what you like. All right. Under the front stitch, under the back stitch, go through. So you can see this is not something I'm very fast at. I am actually working as fast as I can on this, but that's okay, because it's giving you a chance to see me do this. And I am off. I am really off somehow. Maybe not. No, I'm definitely. Maybe not. Maybe it's just curving a weird way. Okay. Or that's what happened on this one. I missed a chain. I missed doing 3 chains at one point. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just actually, for the purpose of this, I'm actually going to join into the same, these 3 stitches into the same space, And that is a habit of mine. That is a very bad habit of mine. I forget to do the chains, the 3 chains, create the chain space. Ugh. But for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to go back and undo it. I would normally go back and correct it, but I don't want to for the purpose of this video. All right, so here we go. So this is a slip stitch. The difference between that and a single crochet is that when you pull the yarn through, instead of doing 2 and then grabbing more yarn and pulling through, you just pull through all the loops. All right, ooh, I made a mistake. I made a lot of mistakes. Okay, going back. I got distracted talking to you, and instead of going through the front loop like I was supposed to, I went in the back loop. Silly me. Okay. Just making mistakes all over the place today. But it was easy enough to take that out. Something wasn't looking right. More? Okay. And right, I'm going to go ahead and go into the first stitch of the corner chain space. All right, so now we've joined the 2. I'm going to go ahead and cut, finish off. So now this is joined. As you can see, it looks a little funky because I missed this chain space there. So that's not a perfect square, but there we go. And then on the back, this is what it looks like. As I said, there are many different methods to joining your granny squares. This is just one of them. I might actually use a mattress stitch or go through all 4 instead of just the front and back. But as you can see, it's joined, it's together, and that's the most important part. Now, I'm not too crazy about the way this looks because I used all the different colors and you can see all the different colors. But say you were going to go ahead and line this with a piece of fleece to make it warmer for a blanket, then having that there really doesn't matter. So that's just one method of joining. You know what, I'm gonna go ahead and show you a whip stitch real quick. I'm gonna just pull this out and show you a whip stitch as well. It's easy enough to do. All right, so a whip stitch is almost exactly what it sounds like. I use this, it's a little frayed, so it's a little bit harder to feed in here. All right, so I'm going to use a side that I didn't make a mistake on and use that instead so they'll line up a little bit better. All right, so basically I'm gonna go in and I'm going to actually go under all. Literally just going under and hitting each stitch. It's not a super neat, but it is certainly a lot quicker than the other way. I'm not planning on doing this all the way across. I'm just going to do enough that you can kind of see what it looks like. And I'm not being entirely too careful about making it into the correct stitches either. So, but this is what it looks like. It's a little bit more even. It brings them together a little bit better. So those are your options. I would do either a slip stitch, I think is very simple. Yeah, see, I didn't line that up properly. Or the whip stitch, which is fairly simple. Let me go ahead and take that out. So those are a couple of different options that you can use to join your granny squares. It all depends on the look that you want for your granny square blanket or jacket or various other things or scarf that you're making. And it just, there's a few options there. Now I will post in the links a resource for you to go check out the different types of joining. There's a very good website that you can go to that's at the Spruce Crafts, and they have just a very good photo of the different ways you can join your granny squares. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for your interest in creating the granny squares, and we